Hello, this is Nicole Cooley with Kids First Education, and today I'm bringing you ELA in a flash. The standard that we're going to look at today is RL71. The standard itself says that we're going to cite several pieces of textual evidence to support an analysis of what the text says explicitly, or what's right there in the text, as well as any inferences that we draw from the text. The new part to the 7th grade standard is that we're looking at several pieces of textual evidence that supports our analysis. So let's look at a reading process and some steps that we can go through to get to the mastery of this standard. The first thing we're going to do is to analyze different parts of the text and put that analysis into our own words. And within that analysis, we're going to include multiple pieces of evidence to support it. Then what we can do is make some inferences about characters, the plot, maybe the theme, and within the analysis of our inferences, we're also going to include multiple pieces of evidence to support it. So let's look at two short excerpts from the short story Fish Cheeks by Amy Tan, which can be found on commonlit.org. Let's read these. I fell in love with the minister's son the winter I turned 14. He was not Chinese, but as white as Mary in the manger. For Christmas, I prayed for this blonde-haired boy, Robert, and a slim new American nose. When I found out that my parents had invited the minister's family over for Christmas Eve dinner, I cried. What would Robert think of our shabby Chinese Christmas? What would he think of our noisy Chinese relatives who lacked proper American manners? What terrible disappointment would he feel upon seeing not a roasted turkey and sweet potatoes, but Chinese food? After everyone had gone, my mother said to me, "You want to be the same as American girls on the outside." She handed me an early gift. It was a miniskirt in beige tweed. But inside you must always be Chinese. You must be proud you are different. Your only shame is to have shame. So let's look at a text-dependent question that is going to force us to look at evidence within the text for the answer and the analysis that is explicitly within the text. Why does the narrator cry when she learns that the minister's family is coming over for Christmas Eve dinner? Well, we know that that is within this section right here, this short excerpt. So let's look at some textual evidence in this section, which would be words and phrases, to help support what we analyze about the answer to this question. One piece is that we know she is in love with the minister's son and the family that's coming over. We also know that she thinks maybe their Chinese Christmas would look shabby to that American family. We also know that she feels her Chinese relatives are quite noisy and that they lack proper American manners. Then she thinks that the American family might be terribly disappointed when they see that they're going to be eating Chinese food and not a roasted turkey and sweet potatoes. So what, within these specific words and phrases, these several pieces of textual evidence right here, what analysis can we form? The narrator seems to feel embarrassed because her family's customs may not meet the expectations of Robert's family's customs, and we also know that she likes Robert. So in order to form an analysis with textual evidence, we need to put these two columns into one paragraph for that analytical thought. The narrator cries when she discovers her parents had invited the minister's family over for Christmas Eve dinner. Notice our quotation marks because we are pulling directly from the text. Because of her heritage, she seems to be embarrassed by what the American family may experience at her house, especially Robert, the son, because she is in love with him. She thinks her family's Christmas is shabby, that her relatives are noisy, her relatives lack proper manners, and that her family's food will cause terrible disappointment because it may not be customary. These words and phrases convey to the reader the narrator's negative attitude toward how others might perceive customs that are normal to her family but not to theirs. Because the words and phrases about her family hold a negative connotation, the reader understands that the narrator may not want others to experience her family's traditions, especially those she may want to impress. So again, what we did to explicitly answer within an analysis this particular text-dependent question is that we looked at the section where this text-dependent question came from. We pulled several pieces of textual evidence that would help us form an analysis to the answer to this question, and then we put these two things together in order to form a complete analysis. Now let's look at an inference, a question that might make us infer something about these particular sections. Why does the mother say your only shame is to have shame? We see that is right down here, so we notice that that is in this section right here. But to infer, we know that we might be using all of this and our background knowledge. So we do have to show what we know in terms of background knowledge with what this question is asking, any several pieces of textual evidence, and then we can make our inference. Well, we know that the mother is talking about shame. Well, what is shame? When might we feel shame? So one piece of background knowledge is that maybe we feel shame when we feel we have done something wrong, or maybe when somebody else might be doing something wrong and we don't know what to do about that. We might feel shameful. And then we also know that the mother is talking to the child here, and so we know that parents offer wise advice to their children. So here's some background knowledge around some of the words and phrases within this particular question. Now let's look at some textual evidence. We know that the mother gives an early gift, a mini skirt, to her daughter. We know from our previous question the narrator may be embarrassed by having others experience her family's customs. We know that the mother tells her inside you must always be Chinese. And we also know that the mother tells her to be proud that you are different. So what is an inference that we can make here with these two columns right here put together? The narrator's mother understands her daughter's wish to be more like American girls, but she also wants her daughter to be proud of her heritage. So in order to form an analysis, we need to put all three columns into an analytical paragraph that answers why we think the mother tells her daughter this. So let's look at that. The narrator's mother understands her daughter's wish to be the same as American girls on the outside, and she gives her daughter an early gift, a miniskirt in beige tweed. Again, please notice our quotation marks because we are looking at quotes from the actual excerpt. However, the mother desires for her child to understand and appreciate their culture's differences. Right here, taking that word right there. By saying, inside you must always be Chinese, the mother is trying to help her daughter see that pride in who they are should take the place of the shame and embarrassment she knows her daughter is feeling. Your only shame is to have shame is a loving yet mild rebuke from the mother, trying to show her daughter that the only wrong thing that happened that Christmas Eve night was her daughter's shameful feelings about her family. So we took all three columns right here and what we put into all three columns. And we made an analysis. We created an analysis for the inference that we made in order to answer this particular text-dependent question. So let's review. RL 7.1 says that we need to cite several pieces of textual evidence to support an analysis of what the text says explicitly, so what's right there in the text, as well as any inferences that we draw from the text. A process to go through in order to meet the demands of this standard is to analyze different parts of the text, put that analysis into our own words, and within that analysis include multiple pieces of evidence to support it. We also want to make inferences about characters and the plot and the theme, and within our analysis of that inference, we want to include again multiple pieces of evidence to support it. This has been ELA in a Flash. For more ELA in a Flash videos, please visit our website at www.kidsfirst.llc. Happy reading!